Now, let's join ace broadcaster Mamode Akugha as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome to the program. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I'm your regular host on the program, Mamode Akugha. In today's package, as usual, we bring you some of the most interesting stories trending in the Niger Delta. And we begin with a report on the persistent face-off between the presidency and the Senate over the appointment of an interim management to oversee the affairs of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. Next on our lineup is an update on the ongoing environmental cleanup exercise in Ogoniland under the supervision of the Hydrocarbon Pollution Remediation Project, HYPREP. Moving on, we bring you a report on what indigenous oil giant Belemaoil Producing Limited is doing to reduce maternal and infant mortality rates in the country. In championing the people's right to unfettered access to information on the conduct of government business, we threw up salient questions on a transaction between the Rivers State government and Shell in a widely publicized transfer of interest in oil mining lease OML 11. And finally on the program is the story of Niger Delta matriarch Mrs. Angelina Uribe, who recently celebrated her 80th birthday at a colorful event in Warri, Delta State. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region will be back in just a moment. Don't go away.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Glad to have you back on the program. If you're just joining us, it's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. The rift between the presidency and the National Assembly over the appointment of an interim management to oversee the affairs of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, may be far from over. Only recently, the Senate barred the Dr. Joy Nunye-led interim management from defending the agency's 2020 budget as the lawmakers insisted on dealing with members of the NDDC governing board whose appointments have been confirmed. In this report, correspondent Ekene Amofiri takes a look at the likely impacts of the current face-off on the operations of the NDDC and how the Niger Delta will fare in the 2020 financial year.
The upper chamber of the National Assembly for the second time publicly demonstrated its disapproval of appointments into the NDDC when recently it barred the Dr. Joy Nunye-led interim management from defending the Commission's 2020 budget. Senate President Ahmed Lawan insisted that the law recognizes the substantive board nominated by the President and confirmed recently by the lawmakers as the rightful body to defend the Commission's budget.
That we have confirmed the request of Mr. President on the board membership of the NDDC. And we have communicated that the next logical thing to do by law is for the appointments of the members of the board to take immediate effect. I believe that the executive arm of government will attend to that quickly so that we have the right people to come and defend the appropriation request of Mr. President. Thank you.
Mr. President, I fear that we may run into a problem of delayed budget again, since nobody will come to defend this budget. Because this August body haven't confirmed the board of NDDC will not countenance any illegal contraption coming in front of us to say that they are representing NDDC.
The rift between the presidency and the Senate has drawn the attention of several groups in the Niger Delta. While some groups are in support of the recent appointment of an interim management to supervise the proposed forensic audit of the NDDC, others have thrown their weight behind the senators who insist on having the substantive board take over the affairs of the NDDC without any further delay.
The Senate has given us an expeditious screening and confirmation to the board. I do not see any reason why to date the board has not been inaugurated. Who is more qualified to handle a forensic audit than the current substantive MD of the board, Bernard Okumagba, a well-known financial expert, a man who has served as a commissioner for finance in Delta State, a man who has seen it all in terms of finances. You can't continue to run a board of that nature with interim management committee. So we frown at it and we condemn it.
The people of Niger Delta has expressed love for the Joy Nunye-led board of NDDC. The Senate will refuse to allow her defend a budget that was sent by Mr. President to the Senate. No. To us, it's unacceptable. Very, very unacceptable, and we will not want it. We will follow it up to all logical conclusion. We are ready to even take to the streets of Abuja to call for the Senate to reverse the decision and do the right thing.
The politics of appointment in the NDDC gives most Niger Deltans cause for worry. They fear that the prevailing scenario will most likely grind NDDC activities to a halt in the next financial year if nothing is done as a matter of urgency to get the feuding parties arrive at a compromise.
The Isoko nation, we are not in support of the continuous use of internal management committee. We are therefore calling on the president to, as a matter of fact, urgency, inaugurate the current board, the substantive board, so that they can actually, bring development to our people.
There seems to be clearly a whole lot of confusion as regards the NDDC. And I do not see how this confusion can come to an end without the presidency putting his feet on the ground to say, this is what we want.
Mr. President should not allow this drive if actually his intention is for the betterment and well-being of the people of the Niger Delta. Because, of course, when two elephants fight, it is the grass that will suffer. We've suffered a lot, and we need a board of NDDC headed by technocrats like we have now to govern and to bring the dividends of that commission to us.
At the receiving end of the current administrative logjam in the NDDC are the largely impoverished communities that the commission was established to transform. The onus is on the feuding arms of government to sheath their swords and arrive at a compromise on the way forward for the NDDC and, by extension, the Niger Delta region.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Civil society groups in the country have called on communities to support the hydrocarbon pollution remediation project, HYPREP, in the ongoing environmental cleanup of polluted sites in Ogoniland. The groups made the call recently during an inspection tour of polluted sites. Correspondent Chika Bodozie has more.
At the instance of HYPREP, some civil society groups recently embarked on an inspection tour of polluted sites currently being remediated in Ogoniland. The inspection tour took them to several sites where remediation efforts are in progress at different stages.
I think I really need to appreciate them for what they've done, for what we saw on ground now. I think they're really trying, and we need to applaud them. Yeah, the level of remediation to me, we never expected to get to this level it has, with the challenge they face from the human factor.
To debunk the stories or the rumors about no work happening is to state the facts here. That was one of the reasons why we interacted with HYPREP, and they insisted that HYPREP takes us to the field and show us for themselves what is happening. And lo and behold, I've been to the field today with HYPREP. I've gone to several sites. I've seen for myself. I've perceived also for myself that work is ongoing.
Contrary to claims in certain quarters that HYPREP was yet to commence the environmental remediation exercise, the civil society groups insisted that the Ogoni cleanup project was on course. They called for the support of impacted communities in Ogoniland to facilitate the environmental remediation process.
Most of the challenge I think we've faced right now, or the HYPREP has faced, is the issue of community people. They're giving them held off.
It may be slow, but something is going on. They say a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, and this step, I think, is in the right direction. HYPREP may not be as what we all expect it to be, but we've put our hands together and ensured that HYPREP will get to where we want them to be.
The ongoing environmental remediation exercise undertaken by the government of President Muhammadu Buhari is in compliance with the recommendations of the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP. The United Nations Agency, after carrying out a survey of crude oil impacted sites, had in its report to the federal government in August 2011 observed that the magnitude of ecological damage attendant on crude oil exploration and exploitation in Ogoniland was far more telling than previously imagined.
They have seen what we are doing and they are satisfied with the work done so far. We are not relenting on our effort as a project. We have given the assurance to Ogoni people that HYPREP is here for quality work and to ensuring that whatsoever UNEP has laid down as guidelines and standards, that we are going to adhere strictly to those standards, to ensuring that the work that will be done as remediation in Ogoniland is done to the best international standards.
UNEP had in its 2011 report observed that the Ogoni Cleanup Project, the most wide-ranging environmental remediation exercise to be taken in any part of the world, would take between 25 and 30 years to complete.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Communities in Daura, Emirate of Katsina State will play host to our children's hospital in no distant time. This follows the signing of a contract awarded for the execution of the hospital project by the NNPC Belemaoil joint venture in partnership with Belemaoil Foundation recently in Port Harcourt.
The signing of a contract for the Children's Hospital project in Daura signals the official commencement of the project. When completed, the hospital project with a 100-bed capacity, fully equipped laboratory and scanning facilities will help reduce incidence of maternal and infant mortality, which is most prevalent in sub-Saharan Africa. Stakeholders in the Children's Hospital project, initiated by the NNPC Belemaoil venture in partnership with the Belemaoil Foundation, are therefore optimistic that the intervention will provide succor for communities in the Daura Emirate.
This is not the first time Belemaoil, in conjunction with the NNPC, have done something worthwhile, very, very worthwhile and well appreciated in my community. I happen to be aware that you have done something similar in Sokoto. You have done it in Misau, Bauchi State. You have done it in Duku, in Gombe State. It looks like this is a hallmark of Belemaoil. We quite appreciate you for that.
In any community, when you talk about health, you are trying to say, I am helping you to promote your welfare of the citizenry. That's the purpose of Belemaoil. What he's doing as much as possible is helping the community. And before that, he was in Daura, where he was able to give us so many boreholes in each local government in Daura, which is equally helping the welfare of the people. Now it goes along with health, which we quite appreciate, and we are thankful to him and thankful to Almighty God.
The project, which commences immediately, will be executed by 4 companies that will be supervised by a consultant to ensure that it is delivered in accordance with its original design at the right time.
This has to do with health, that is child health. Without the children, we don't have a future. And that's why we deemed it fit that this is something we are going to invest in. What makes us different from others is that we extend a hand of fellowship to our communities and to other communities in Nigeria.
And the community should look forward to a successful project that will go on.
Founder and president of Belemaoil Producing Limited, Jack Rich Ten Jr., who addressed stakeholders in the project, described it as his company's demonstration of love and commitment to national unity.
What we have demonstrated today is a clear statement that those of our brothers in the north and we down south here were one. We're not different from ourselves. And understanding our respective needs and collaborating to addressing that need is the most important foundation that we need to lay as legacy for our children and their children. And it's also very important to recognize the fact that this project is for humanity. This project is to showcase love. It's not any form of arrogance. is designed to display humility and recognize the importance of the human race.
The Children's Hospital in Daura, which is expected to be completed by August next year, is one of several projects initiated and executed across the country by Belemaoil since it was awarded the operational license of OML 55 a few years back, and more recently, the joint operatorship of OML 25.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike in September this year hinted that his state had acquired Shell's 45% stake in OML 11 oil fields with a sum of $150 million. The announcement had immediately sparked off a controversy in Rivers State, particularly in Ogoniland, which plays host to most of the oil fields in OML 11. While Shell has neither denied nor confirmed the transfer of its interest in OML 11, the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPRO, which is responsible for the allocation and reallocation of oil blocks, says it is not aware of the transaction. The following interview seeks to answer some of the purported acquisition of Shell's stake in OML 11. And my guest is engineer Boma Brown, a former Shell staff who rose to the position of asset manager land assets before his retirement. The Ogoni oil fields have been in serious contention over a while. Your governor has just announced, an acquisition of it. I'm still very confused. I've tried to reach out to the governor, to talk to him on this program to understand what his intentions are and what exactly he thinks he has done, but we've not been able to get that feedback and that opportunity yet. But you have been in the oil industry for over 30 years now. What is going on with OML 11 and your governor?
OML 11 has been a big challenge, not the whole of OML 11, but it's more about the Ogoni fields. The governor announced that he had acquired, but what I know is that the acquisition needs to go through also the minister's consent. So the aspect of the minister's consent is what we are not aware whether it's the shares or the surface facilities. So we still need that clarity on what the acquisition is. Everybody in the oil industry is still asking, is it the subsurface asset that is acquired, or is just the surface assets that were acquired? And I think until we get that clarity, nobody will really say what was acquired. People are not really understanding the whole acquisition because there are some regulatory frameworks within the acquisition to move forward. You need the consent of the minister, who is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And nobody is aware whether the President had given his consent to that acquisition.
So everybody is in the limbo, so to speak, while waiting for the governor to throw some more clarity.
Yes, and also to see what the federal government is doing about OML 11, because that will also give us the feedback on the situation in OML 11, because the mineral at most of the operations is at the federal level. So based on the fact that if the federal government through NNPC comes up with what's happening. By the way, since 2012, 2013, the operators of the Ogoni fields, NPDC had been the operators of the Ogoni field. So we don't know. The acquisition was through SPDC, but then the operators are NPDC since 2013. So I don't know who is accountable for that. So there is still gray areas that needs to be clarified within that. But as I said, with the federal government through NNPC and NPDC operations, we will know what's really happening in the Ogoni field. But OML 11 is very clear. Ogoni is just an element of
because I know it extends even up to Abia State.
Yes.
And all that.
Rivers, and other places in OML 11. So
If the state governor is acquired, I don't know if the acquisition goes into the territories of other states.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer Baba Brown. We'll be speaking with Engineer Baba Brown, talking about so many issues in the oil and gas industry. Of course, it's an industry for which he has been there over 30 years. He's currently a consultant. Thank you so much for being with us on Inside the Niger Delta.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Inside the Niger Delta.
The Niger Delta is endowed not only with vast crude oil and gas resources. The region is also blessed with some of the most hardworking and courageous women struggling to provide financial support for their families and communities. The story of Mrs. Angelina Origbe of Enwe community in Isoko South local government area of Delta State captures the struggles of women and their socio-economic well-being of their families and communities. Mrs. Origbe, who recently turned 80, was celebrated by family and friends at a lavish birthday party in Warri, Delta State.
77, 78, 79.
Friends and well-wishers of the Origbe family in Enwe community, Isoko South local government area of Delta State, were in Warri to celebrate Mrs. Angelina Origbe on the occasion of her 80th birthday. The octogenarian, who took to trading to raise funds to support her better half, the late Ambrose Jamaho Origbe. Their union produced 10 children who are all alive and doing well as professionals and business people.
Foremost and important thing I can remember about my mom is the generosity. That Christian way of living, you know, one for all for one, you know. This she has passed to all of her children, and I'm really, really grateful to her for having inculcated in me that spirit, you know. And, it's one of her best assets.
All the sacrifices that she made, you know, while we were growing up, to make ends meet, to put food on the table, to pay for our school fees, to cater for us. She really, really struggled through life for us. So, and I've always told myself that whenever I have the opportunity, I will be willing to appreciate my mother. And that is just what we just did today for all the sufferings and all the hard labor that she went through trying to raise us up.
Mrs. Origbe's generosity knew no bounds as she extended her milk of kindness to other families from the proceeds of her enterprise.
She has an open door policy, irrespective of where you come from. She takes you as one of her child. She's down to earth.
She has beautiful kids that she brought up well, and today they have been able to honor her, to make her happy, to bring joy to her. I wish her many more years in return.
In the year 2000, Mrs. Origbe was devastated by the loss of her husband, but decided to soldier on in life. At 80, the matriarch of the Origbe family is still hale and hearty.
When I got married, it just felt like it's my mom. So I thank God for her life. I thank God for the love she shows me. I'm grateful for everything, and may God continue to give her good health. May she live long so that she will enjoy her more and more and more.
Having married into that family 13 years ago, she has been awesome. You know, you won't even know that, you know, you're being married into a tribe that you don't understand their language. She has been awesome. She has a beautiful heart, a heart of gold. I appreciate her more for like kind of giving birth to a wonderful man, you know, with a wonderful heart, with a heart of gold.
Overwhelmed by the care and love showered on her by family and friends, Mrs. Origbe blessed those who celebrated her on the occasion of her 80th birthday.
I'm very, very happy for my knife. The thing when I not see this, my knife now see today. For my children, what they do for me, God will bless them. What they Friday, when they call for no, they call happy with me. God self will bless them. The one their mama did, and so they go, they join with their mama too. As the call just waits me, and so we go.
And with that report, we draw the curtain on the program. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region will be back same time next week on this station. Until then, you can follow us on our social media handles showing right now on your screen. On behalf of the production crew, I'm yours sincerely, Mamode Akugha, appreciating you for staying tuned. Bye for now.